The protests pushed by the Democrats are not turning out the way they wanted. They would have hoped to turn these immigration enforcement of the Trump administration protest into something like BLM 2.0 and have a public wave of support against the Trump administration. And the optics have been totally different. What they got was a bunch of riots, people setting cars on fire, looting stores. And now the public opinion is actually favoring Trump's enforcement of his immigration policies. And so the Democrats, they needed to do something to try to invert that narrative and to show Trump as the bad guy. And so today we have Senator Alex Padilla of California trying to pull some stunt during a DHS briefing from Kristi Noem, and there has been a lot of reaction to that. So let's have a look first at the images and then we'll comment on it.
Continue to sustain and increase our operations in this city. We are not going away. We are staying here to liberate this city from the socialist and the burdensome leadership that this governor and that this mayor have placed on this country and what they have tried to insert into this city. So I want to say thank you to every single person that has been able to do this. Also, I want to talk specifically to the rioters and to the politicians in Los Angeles. I also want to talk about specifically how many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty.
And again, that was a portion there as we did see that interruption. And we have now learned the identity of the person from Fox's Bill Malugin. It was Senator Alex Padilla, a Democrat from California, who has been very vocal on all of this. And we do have that video right here on your screen from Bill from a different angle. Take a look and listen here.
I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your heads off.
He doesn't say anything that makes even any sense. Clearly, he's not there to ask a question. He's just there to heckle her and to disrupt the press conference, to make a spectacle of himself. And he definitely managed to do that. Let's see what happens after that.
On the ground. Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go, I'd find behind my back.
All right. Cool. Other hand. Lay flat. Lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
There's no recording allowed out here.
I did not know.
There's no recording allowed out here per FBI, right? For the building.
So what, I'm sorry?
There's no recording allowed out here.
And great images here that I'm sure are going to follow Alex Padilla in his political career that is now basically over. There's absolutely no chance that this guy is now going to be able to run for national office after that. And, you know, he definitely was one of these guys in California that was trying to move up to the federal government. After this, it's going to be very, very difficult for him to do so. And I think we're going to see very soon a lot of political careers being derailed. Here we have a reaction for him.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. So you guys have some questions. I'm going to read a brief statement. I will not be taking questions, but allow me to read my statement. I'm here in Los Angeles today, and I was here in the federal building, in the conference room, awaiting a scheduled briefing from federal officials as part of my responsibility as a senator to provide oversight and accountability. While I was waiting for the briefing with General Guillot, I learned that Secretary Noem was having a press conference a couple of doors down the hall.
So he decided to win there and just disrupt the press conference and make it all about himself to trying to get some media time.
since the beginning of the year, but especially over the course of recent weeks, several of my colleagues, have been asking the Department of Homeland Security for more information and more answers on their increasingly extreme immigration enforcement actions.
And then you see, he goes on this tangent. He doesn't continue to say, okay, I was there and then I did something. No, he goes there and makes side steps, to this sort of a nonsensical argument. Oh, well, we've been trying to ask them questions and now I was there to ask questions when, first of all, this is a press briefing. There is a time for people, for mainly journalists, to ask questions, which he did not wait for that time. He just interrupted her in the middle of her speech. He could have waited perhaps a few minutes until she asked the press to ask questions, and then maybe they would have let him jump in, even though he's not a member of the press. But that's not what he did there. He went there in the middle of her speech to interrupt her and make a spectacle of himself. So of course he's trying to preface what he's going to say next with some absolute BS to try to say, oh, well, we've been asking them questions since the beginning of the year and they haven't answered. And that's why I went there and interrupted her press conference. A nonsensical argument here from Padilla.
And we've gotten little to no information in response to our inquiries. And so I came to the press conference to hear what she had to say, to see if I could.
No, he didn't come to hear what she had to say. He went there to interrupt her. And, you see once again this sort of a childish strategy from the Democrats to sort of invert the roles and say, oh, well, it is actually her fault that I went there to disrupt her press conference. It's because she didn't answer the questions that I had for her previously. Nonsense.
Learn any new additional information.
For new information.
And at
what
one
information?
Point, I had a question.
He did not ask a question.
And let me emphasize, just as we've emphasized the right for people to peacefully protest and to stand up for their First Amendment rights.
To peacefully protest, let's look at the images of this peaceful protest.
All right, so a pretty quick video right there coming in from Bill Melugin at Fox News as he was there and got video from a different angle of Senator Padilla as he did interrupt that news conference, and you could hear him screaming. But again, that is a closer look there. Now, all of this is related to what you're looking at right here on your screen. The protests over in some cases.
As you can see here, very, very peaceful here.
For our fundamental rights. I was there peacefully. At one point, I had a question. And so I began to ask a question.
He did not ask a question. He just went on a rant saying things that made absolutely no sense. At no point in time did he actually ask a question.
I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was forced to the ground. And I was handcuffed. I was not arrested.
What a shame. He should have been. Because you tried to do that. You go to a Democratic press briefing and you do what he did, and you will see, you will get arrested, you will get charged for sure.
I was not detained. I will say this. If this is how this administration responds to a senator with a question, if this is how the Department of Homeland Security responds to a senator with a question, you can only imagine what they're doing to farm workers, to cooks, to day laborers out in the Los Angeles community and throughout California and throughout the country.
All right. And a lousy performance. He tries to act. He's trying to cry, but the tears don't come out because he's not such a good actor. But of course, this guy saying, oh, how can they do that to a senator? This guy's an absolute clown. He should never be elected. But of course, only in California can you elect people who have absolutely no business being political leaders. All right, let's now have a look at the reactions on Twitter. First one here by none other, of course, than Gavin Newsom, the governor, the failed and failing governor of California. If they handcuff a U.S. senator for asking a question, once again, he did not ask any question. He just went on a rant to disrupt her press conference. Imagine what they will do to you. Yeah, especially if it is the forces that are handled by Gavin Newsom or some of the Democrats. Of course, the problem for the Democrats here is that people remember what Gavin Newsom did with COVID. Kamala Harris, United States Senator Alex Padilla, was representing the millions of Californians who are demanding answers to this administration's action in Southern California. This is a shameful and stunning abuse of power. How is this an abuse of power? How is this an abuse of power? This guy comes, he has no business being in there. He was in the building for some other business. He was never supposed to be in this press conference room. And then he comes and disrupts it. How is that an abuse of power? Let's listen here to Elizabeth Warren reacting to this.
When Senator Padilla gets pushed, shoved, thrown to the handcuffed because he is asking questions, because he is engaging in the very oversight that senators are supposed to engage in.
What oversight? What is she talking about? And you'll see, all these Democrats, they are like hyperventilating. Oh my God, how is this happening? This is not what you expect from your leaders. You expect to stay calm, be rational. And here they seem like emotional children reacting to something that is really not that eventful, but trying to steer some kind of narrative. And of course, they are failing. Let's listen to the rest of what she has to say.
Then what we're really talking about here is a Trump administration that just wants to shut down the ordinary functions of government. Look.
All right. And this is incredible. The absolute inversion here. She says the Trump administration is trying to shut down the working of the government when these Democrats are trying to steer protest to stop the federal government from doing its job. Senator Alex Padilla is a good man and a principled public servant. From Hakeem Jeffries here. The brazen aggressive manhandling of Senator Padilla by the Trump administration. This is not the Trump administration. These are California federal employees. It has nothing to do with the Trump administration. These are people from California. What is he talking about? Once again, here, Hakeem Jeffries is trying to somehow pretend that the cops that are arresting Alex Padilla here are not even arresting, detaining him, are somewhat the Trump administration. Now, the Trump administration is in the White House, is just a few people in suits, not a bunch of cops with guns. And of course, now he's putting the blame on these federal employees in California that have absolutely nothing to do with the Trump administration. They are just there doing their job. All right, so this is it for this episode of Senator Alex Padilla of California being tackled to the ground after heckling Kristi Noem in a press briefing. And we're going to see a lot of things happening here over this weekend and over the next week as these riots continue and as the Democrats try to push and mobilize people against the Trump administration immigration policies, but it doesn't seem to be working the way they wanted. Of course, they wanted to do something like a BLM 2.0 and have this massive public support against the Trump administration policies, but as it turns out here, the public opinion seemed to be siding with the Trump administration, and it is not surprising when you consider the images that have been broadcasted around the world. People being shocked at seeing cars on fire, stores being looted, and the people waving a foreign flag on American soil saying, "This is our land." The optics are terrible for the Democrats, and I think that we are going to see over this weekend and the next week a lot of political careers from top Democrats being absolutely zeroed out. And the first to be is going to be Gavin Newsom. He's the one who is going to lose very, very big in the coming weeks. And perhaps we're going to see his chances to ever become president of the United States go from something that was relatively good to absolute zero. And that is, if it turns out to be like this, it's going to be very, very good for J.D. Vance in 2028. But we'll have to see what happens until then. But anyway, guys, that is it for us today. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I will see you soon on the next one.
Hit me with that like and sub to the channel. Hit me with that like and click the effing bell. Click that bit, alright. The algo recommends for she don't like. The algo knows you well. Hit me with that like, subscribe to the channel. Hit me with that like and click the effing bell.